Alright, moving right along to our next Patreon request, and this one comes from Hunter Johnson, who asked me to do, of the three, this is the second of his three horror Ed, and Eddie Patreon requests. As always, if you guys would like to have a Patreon request done, just hit the link below. Head on over to my Patreon. You guys can start sending me requests for videos to do here on YouTube once you hit the third tier. And yeah, other than that, let's get started. And as you can see from the title, yes, it's my bloody ValEd time. So let's get started with the video. So this story begins with the Eds having no idea. They have no, like, Eddie has hit another writer's block when it comes to scams, and he really has no idea what to do next. He's just kind of like going through the motions, and he's like, I don't know what to do. Okay, I have no plan. I have nothing. And Double D suggests, how about we go for a walk? Usually when I walk, I get I have ideas come to me through, sparks of genius. And he's like, sometimes, Double D, I question our friendship, but sure, I'll indulge you on this one. So the Eds head out for a walk deep into the woods, and eventually they travel so far out of town is that they eventually come across this old mine system. And Double D explains, it seems like this old mining camp used to be, this old mining spot used to be used during Peach Creek's old days as a mining town. And they're like, Peach Creek was a mining town? Also, what were they mining for? And they were like, oh, crude oil and minerals and silver. And he's like, silver? That means, silver turns into coins, and coins mean this cash. We're gonna be rich, boys. Eddie, this place... And Dudley's like, Eddie, no, this place has been condemned. We can't be here. And I'm sure the mine has already, gone through all of its original reserves. That's why they abandoned it. And he's like, can't hear you, Double D. Gonna be rich, can't hear you. So the Eds travel deep into the mines where they don't really find anything of note. But Eddie does get an idea. Eddie does get an idea from these mines, and he's like, because he sees an old cart. He sees an old cart on the tracks. He's like, hey, Double D, wouldn't it be cool if we made these into a roller coaster? He's like, and Ed's like, Double D's like, Eddie, this would be a horrible idea. Think of the damages to oneself. Think of the lawsuits. And he's like, I'm thinking about the money, Double D, so we're doing this. And Ed's just like, roller coasters are full of bodily harm. and Ed is like, bodily harm equals fun. So Double D and the rest of them get to work on making a roller coaster for, they basically set up to make a roller coaster for a roller coaster, a deep mine roller coaster, kind of like what you see, a more extreme version of what you see at Snow White, the Snow White ride that you can never get into because it's so fucking long. And God help you now with Genie, but I'm rambling. Anyway, so what they don't know is that there's someone occupying that place, someone who's been hiding there since the 80s, and that person is a very old Axel Palmer from the second miner after Harry Warden, who at the end of the film cut his arm off and escaped deep into the mines of ValEDtine Bluffs. So for here, what happened to Axel was that after severing his arm and, traveling deep into the mine, he more or less escaped out of an old mine shaft and has traveled, far from Valentine's Day Bluffs, and has now been, staying alone, has found his way out of there and wandered for months until he found a new mine system that was in Peach Creek, and has now been staying there hidden away. He thought about going back to Valentine's Day Bluffs, but now he's just like, nah. They've learned their lesson. They'll never celebrate Valentine's Day again after me. So I'm just going to live here, live with my thoughts for the rest of my life, and not so much try to kill people, It's more like, I'm just going to stay here and kill whoever comes in. He's now like an old one-armed miner, but that doesn't mean he's, you know, not dangerous. So he obviously overheard the Eds making plans to make his home into a, you know, a made up basically make his home into a theme park. And he's like, they want a theme park. They'll learn. They'll all learn, right? Right, Harry? They'll all learn. So the Eds make the mine shaft into a ride and attract the cul-de-sac kids to coming for the grand opening of this deep minecart ride, which they call like the Ed's mining extravaganza. And he's like, Eddie, that name needs work. He's like, what, Double D? I'm scraping the barrel here. So how it works is that the Eds have made like a pull system that will launch a cart deep into the mines and take them deep and further into the mines and explore, but the inertia will snap them back and knock them back onto the tracks that will lead them back here. So it's like one big slingshot back and forth. Don't question it, it's cartoon logic. So from there, the first people who get on it are Kevin, Naz, and Rolf. And Ed is like pulling them back and shoots them off. He pulls them back and then pushes them off deep into the ride. And from there, it's just crazy. Of course, Ed is pretty fucking strong, so he's just thrown them down the chute. They're going through loop-de-loops. They're going all left and right. But as they do, like Naz, when they come back, Naz is freaking out because she swears she saw someone get close to the tracks, and they're like, "No, you're wrong. There's no way this guy. There's no one on these tracks, Naz. There's nothing here." So Naz is still freaking out that she swears she saw someone out there, and she's convinced it's someone that, it's some guy in a miner costume. So in order to, A, disprove them, and B, look cool to Naz, Eddie drags him and Ed into the mines where Rolf shoves them in, and they go flying around. It's there that the cart just derails and sends them flying down a shaft that they shouldn't have been in. So the Eds are left abandoned in the mines, and they're just like, the rest of the kids are like, it sounds like they crashed. Oh well. And they just fucking leave. So the Eds are now alone deep in the mines with Double D is kind of freaked out a bit. Like, even he's like, Eddie, what if Naz was right? What if someone is down here? What if someone is, stalking this place? And Ed is like, oh, I hope it's like the three-headed bean monster from I Was a Teenage Spleen. So Ed's not helping the situation. So Ed and Eddie are trying to find their way back, and Ed can be like, I want to get, I'm going to give Kevin what for ditching us down here, and I'm going to make sure I get my money for the ride, because they didn't pay us. So as they're trying to travel through, what happens is I'm gonna take a piece of his, Eddie's just losing his mind, and Eddie just shouts I swear I'm gonna pick him apart for this, and that's when a pick comes flying in and almost hits Eddie. It gets him by the shirt and pins him to the wall. And he's like, "Mommy!" And that's when Axel shows up, all in full miner regalia, and holding his ready to kill them all. So Ed and Eddie pull Eddie free from the pick, just as Axel comes down on them, is swinging it at them with one arm, and of course they're just like, run away! So they just fucking bolt. They just fucking run for their lives and try their best to escape from the situation. Of course, Axel's following behind them, swinging his swinging his pick at them whenever he gets the chance. It almost becomes like a Scooby-Doo run where you could almost have, like, Donny Osmond playing in the background, and it's just one big chase scene of them running from the miner, until eventually, they find their way out, and they're like, hey, and Kevin's like, hey, dorks, thought you'd never make it out. Oh, well. And they're just like, mine, killer miner, run! And that's when it's like, killer miner, what? And that's when Axel starts running at them with it, and they're like, miner! And everyone just starts just fucking bolts and runs for their lives. So as Axel chases everyone out of the building, what happens is that they're like, well, how do we stop this guy? Whoever this guy is, he clearly doesn't like us, and so he clearly wants us dead. So what do we do? And Double D's like, we should take it. We should try to lure him back to the mine and close and seal it. And they're like, how do we? Okay, wise ass, how do we seal it? With this guy. And furthermore, how do we get this guy back to, lure him back to the mine? And that's when Ed is like, I will do it. And they're like, really, Ed? You'll do it? I know how to stop slashers, guys. And so what he didn't tell them was that he grabs Naz and is like, look, Slasher, a maiden untouched and spoiled in womanhood. and Naz is like, put me down, you idiot. I'm not unspoiled. And Eddie's like, time out, what? Even Kevin's like, what? So Ed uses Naz as they're both running back to the mine, and that's when, meanwhile, Rolf, Kevin, and Eddie have to push a giant boulder down in front of him and trap trap Axel there. So as Axel's going after them, Ed and Naz manage to get out of the way, and that's when they pull the rock down and close the mine forever. Single-handedly escaping certain death. So, yeah, by the end of it, Eddie doesn't get to keep his money because they're like, you almost killed us. We're lucky. You're lucky you didn't. We're not going to tell the cops on you so long as you give us our money back. And he's like, you vultures. And Devil D does eventually convince him to give back the money, begrudgingly. So there you go, guys. That is my bloody ValEdtine. You guys tell me in the comments below what you guys think of it. And once again, I'd like to thank Hunter Johnson for this Patreon request, and like I said, if you'd like to have a Patreon request done, just hit the link below, head on over to my Patreon where you guys can start sending me requests for videos to do here on YouTube. But other than that, hope you all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.